Okay, the dough is it's pretty big at this point. It is relatively thin. It's sort of like a, I know you could get it thinner. People say that you should be able to read the newspaper through your pasta dough. You cannot read a newspaper through this dough. I will confess that. This mat has some writing on it, and I can see the writing, but I cannot read it. Something that may happen, and it's happening to me, is you may get some wrinkles in the dough. And, just kind of do your best to try to smooth them out. And, again, it's not the end of the world. That's the beauty, is it's going to be edible, even if it has a wrinkle in it. It's going to cook fine. It's really, I think I'm making it worse at this point. If it gets big like this and it gets hard to flip over, this is where the pin really comes in handy. You can wrap the dough around it and roll it up and then flip it over. So I'm pretty happy with this. You can run your hand over to see if there's areas that feel like they're still kind of thick, to try to get it even. This is pretty good. So now we go to our next step, which is we're going to cut noodles, because all you need is a cutting board and a knife. So you've probably got those. What I want to do is kind of square off this dough a little bit. So I'm just going to use the knife to take off the end pieces. This doesn't have to be perfect or anything. And I'm being gentle because I don't want to cut through this mat. It's been cut through before. It's not in perfect shape, but I don't want to make it worse. So now I've got a rectangular piece, and I'm going to cut that in approximately half as well. Okay, now just going to put let's see. I will just leave the dough here. I'm going to work with one piece at a time. So I want to cover up this dough that I'm not going to work with so that it doesn't dry out. So I'll just move this half a piece of dough off to the side and have it covered with plastic so that it doesn't dry out. I put the flour down so it doesn't stick to my counter, hopefully. And I'm going to start working on this piece of dough. I'm going to put it on this cutting board. There we go. So what am I going to do with these pieces? I usually just cut these up into odd little shapes. Nothing fancy. These you can just boil and put some butter and Parmesan on it. That's delicious. I'll end up probably just cooking it with the noodles that are a more regular shape. Because they're the same thickness, they're going to cook pretty much at the same rate, so I'm not too worried about that. And I'll put a little bit of flour on these and toss them a little bit just so they don't stick together. If you have semolina, which is a more coarse wheat, durum wheat, that's really nice because it doesn't really absorb into the pasta, but it does keep it from sticking. All right, so now I've got this pretty close to a rectangle, and it's probably 8 inches by 10 inches, something like that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna roll it, fold it in from from the short end into the middle, kind of like a book, and we're gonna cut it up. So it feels a little bit tacky, and I don't want it to get stuck when I fold it onto itself, so I'm just gonna sprinkle some flour on it, spread it around. So that should help. And I'm just gonna take maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches, roll it in, fold it in, and do it again. And I want it to join in the middle, okay? And now I can start to cut noodles. And you can have whatever width you want. You know, there's a lot of different, you've heard of, you know, fettuccine, linguine, pappardelle. The difference between them is their width. And it's not even, you know, I've read in different books and on different sites how wide each of those kinds of pastas are supposed to be. And, you know, I know the pappardelle is wider. It's like more like 1 inch. But you'll see, you know, ranges for the width of the different noodles. So, you know, you can start with maybe some narrower ones. This would be like a fettuccine. You could do some really narrow ones, just like a couple of millimeters wide. Just, you know, note to self, it's going to take more work to unravel these. The pappardelle, a nice fat noodle, like 1 inch wide. This would be awesome with like a meat sauce. So here are the different widths, and then you just want to unroll them. So you pick them up in the middle, and they, if they're not stuck together, and these miraculously are not stuck together, they just like unfold. Don't worry about it if they don't do this, because I swear to God, they never really do this for me. Usually I am painstakingly like unsticking them, all part of the process. But, and there's a fancy way to like do this in the middle and get like a bunch of them at once. And I didn't do it particularly perfectly there, but so I've got a few different kinds of noodles here. So if you were making dinner, you probably would pick one width that you thought made sense for whatever it was you were going to use them for. And you just don't want them to get really stuck together, so you kind of want to fluff those up. This is where you can throw in, you know, a little flour, or like I said, the semolina is really nice, and let it kind of dry out a little bit. If I'm not going to use these, like, you want it to dry for some period of time before you use it. Like if I put this right in the water right now, I just don't think that's advisable. I often will put these on a cookie sheet in the freezer, and even if it's just for half an hour, it makes it really easy. Then they harden, put them right in the boiling water from frozen, and they still cook in just a couple of minutes. So here are your 3 shapes, and you can do more with a second sheet. So thank you for watching. I hope that you could see that making fresh pasta at home, it is not hard. It's not rocket science. It takes a little bit of time, but I find it to be relaxing. You can have a nice glass of wine with it, which makes it even better. And what you end up with is something that's really delicious, and I think that you'll be really impressed with whatever it is that you make. So if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to reach out. Leave me a comment. I'd be happy to cover other topics and answer any questions. So thank you.